Joro, a high school student, meets his childhood friend Himawari on the way to school. They meet Sun-chan, who is a star baseball player and Joro's friend. Himawari becomes angry at Joro and walks off. Cosmos, the student council president, arrives to pick up Joro for student council duties as he is the secretary. Himawari becomes grumpy when she sees Cosmos. At the student council room, Cosmos asks Joro on a date that weekend, and that night, Himawari texts Joro if they could meet during the weekend. Cosmos meets Joro and they go shopping and have a picnic. At the end of the day, Cosmos asks Joro to sit with her on a park bench as she has something important to say. She confesses that she is in love with his best friend Sun-chan, and she fell in love with him at last year's regional basketball match, where a frustrated Sun-chan was crying in the hallway. She asks for his help with getting together with Sun-chan, and he agrees. The next day, Joro meets Himawari for their date. They have fun eating food and going to the park. At the end of the day, Himawari asks Joro to sit with her on a park bench as she has something important to say. She confesses that she is in love with his best friend Sun-chan, and she fell in love with him at last year's regional basketball match, where a frustrated Sun-chan was crying in the hallway. She asks for his help with getting together with Sun-chan, and he agrees. That night, Joro is incredibly angry as his plan to act like a clueless anime protagonist has failed miserably. He schemes that if he can pair one girl with his friend, he would be able to date the other. Himawari meets Joro the next morning, and he is angry at her exploitative ways. He reveals to her that Cosmos is her rival for Sun-chan's love and that he will not choose a side in their rivalry, but will help each of them equally. She thanks him, and in his head, he insults her. They plan a conversation with Sun-chan to get Himawari alone with him, but Himawari messes up her lines before Joro steps in to save the plan. Cosmos meets Joro at the student council room, and he is angry at her manipulative ways. He reveals to her that Himawari is her rival for Sun-chan's love and that he will not choose a side in their rivalry, but will help each of them equally. She thanks him, and in his head, he insults her. They plan a conversation with Sun-chan to get Cosmos alone with him, but Cosmos messes up her lines before Joro steps in to save the plan. At lunch, Joro hides from both of them and hides in the library. He is approached by Pansy at the library. He dislikes her because she is always insulting him. She reveals that she has been stalking him and that she threatens to reveal his plans to Sun-chan unless he sits with her on a park bench as she has something important to say. She confesses that she is in love with him, and he is horrified. He politely declines, but she asks him to reveal his hide or his cruel and manipulative side, which is the person she loves. He states that he will never go out with her, and she blackmails him into eating lunch with her every day. Himawari has 2 movie tickets, and she asks Joro for his help in giving them to Sun-chan so that both Himawari and Sun-chan will be alone together. Joro manipulates a social situation, but Himawari messes it up by acting too excited. Sun-chan kindly gives his ticket to Himawari so that Joro and her can go together, but Joro manages to save the plan and get them on a date together. Cosmos has homemade lunches, and she asks Joro for his help in giving them to Sun-chan so that both Cosmos and Sun-chan will be alone together. Joro manipulates a social situation, but Cosmos messes it up by acting too weird. Sun-chan kindly invites Joro to join them on a lunch date, but Joro manages to save the plan and get them on a date together. Joro complains to Pansy that the other 2 girls are hopeless, and Pansy agrees to help him so that she can spend more time with him. She tells him to learn Sun-chan's preference for girls. Joro meets Sun-chan to ask him about his preferences for girls. Sun-chan reveals he does have someone in mind, and he asks Joro to sit with him on a park bench as he has something important to say. He confesses that he is in love with Pansy, and he fell in love with her at last year's regional basketball match, where after crying in the hallway he met Pansy, who gave him some encouragement. Sun-chan asks for his help with getting together with Pansy, and he declines but tells Sun-chan not to give up. He approaches Pansy, but she determines his intentions, and she angrily states that she will only go out with him and not Sun-chan. Sun-chan sees them and questions Joro, but Pansy steps in to save Joro. She calls him a manipulative jerk and leaves. Pansy texts Joro not to come to the library for the next few days, and he spends his time manipulating situations to get Sun-chan together with Himawari and Cosmos. Cosmos summons Joro to tell him some bad news, that Sun-chan has approached her to get her help to get close to Pansy. She accuses him of lying and betraying her by giving Sun-chan encouragement. She calls him a manipulative jerk and leaves. Himawari summons Joro to tell him some bad news, that Sun-chan has approached her to get close to Pansy. She accuses him of lying and betraying her by giving Sun-chan encouragement. She calls him a manipulative jerk and leaves. Pansy summons Joro and implies that she has set up this situation to punish him. Everyone else arrives and sees the 2 together in the library. They all accuse Joro of lying and manipulating them. He snaps and angrily tells them to go to hell, accusing Cosmos and Himawari of manipulating him and treating him like a convenient tool even if all he has done is try to help them. He compliments himself on his superb acting, but Pansy ruins his performance by announcing that he was only helping them so he could claim the girl who was unsuccessful. Sun-chan punches Joro, ends their friendship and tells him to stay away from all three girls. Bad rumors spread throughout the school and Joro is shunned by the rest of the student body. Pansy invites Joro to the library and creates a situation where he can eavesdrop on a conversation between herself and Sun-chan. Pansy accuses Sun-chan of lying and trapping Joro, using the feelings of the other girls to take down Joro's reputation so that he can get together with Pansy and punish Joro for not helping him. Sun-chan reveals that in middle school he was betrayed by Joro, because his crush back then asked him for his help in getting together with Joro. This was his revenge against Joro. Sun-chan asks why she likes Joro, and she reveals that even with his manipulations he was still trying his best to make Sun-chan happy. And she fell in love with him at last year's regional basketball match, where Joro waited outside the match for Sun-chan with his favorite food to cheer him up even if he looked stupid. Joro remembers meeting a pretty girl that day while waiting for Sun-chan. Sun-chan, who believes that they are alone since nobody comes into the library, threatens Pansy. Joro reveals himself and he berates Sun-chan for manipulating the others and making light of the girls' feelings. He orders Sun-chan to apologize to them. Sun-chan agrees, but he states that he has not lost yet to Joro. Pansy compliments Joro's mean side and he leaves. It is revealed that she had both the other girls also hiding in the library. The next day Cosmos apologizes to him and Himawari protects his desk from graffiti. Sun-chan also confesses to the class that he manipulated Joro's bad reputation, and his apology restores Joro's good name in the school. At the library, Pansy reveals she was the girl he met at the day of the baseball match, and that she is in love with both the kind and loyal Joro as well as the cruel and manipulative Joro. She gives him a kiss. Joro has agreed to continue to meet Pansy in the library, but he is annoyed that she continues to hide her appearance. She states that she has to, as she is hiding from a stalker. She advises him to speak with his former friends and to regain their friendship. He goes to class and meets Asunaro, who is part of the newspaper club. She is writing an article about the Flower Festival, an upcoming school event where a boy is chosen to dance with 3 girls and then chooses one girl after. He goes to Himawari, but she runs away from him. He catches up to her after she falls. She reveals that she is avoiding him because she had caused him so much trouble. However, they make up and become friends again. They meet Sun-chan and challenge him to study together with them again. Sun-chan declines, but they announce to him that they want to be friends again. Sun-chan apologizes and they decide to become friends again. Talking with Asunaro, he gets a bad feeling and realizes he forgot to repair his friendship with Cosmos. He overhears her crying that he never made up with her even after she had been practicing reconciliation techniques. They make up and become friends again. Joro invites all of them to study together in the library. Cosmos is an upperclassman and is top of her class, so she assigns them to do 5,000 math problems. They all walk home together, and Joro is glad they are all friends again, as this plays perfectly into his ultimate plans to get all the girls. The next morning, Asunaro approaches him and asks him to meet her on the roof, where they find a park bench. Asunaro asks Joro to sit with her on the park bench, as she has something important to say. She confesses that she thinks he is a sleazy and manipulative scumbag who is manipulating all the girls. And she noticed his immoral ways at last year's regional basketball match, where she caught him staring at a girl with suspicious eyes. She accuses him of trying to become the protagonist of a rom-com anime, and threatens to publish a tell-all article on his sleazy ways to the school newspaper. She blackmails him into letting her follow him around to observe him, and if he proves he is not manipulative, she will not publish the article. They meet Cosmos, who reveals that he was picked as the boy for the Flower Festival and that Cosmos, Himawari, and a first-year student were picked as the 3 girls. Asunaro continues to spy on him. Joro meets with everyone and explains the situation, but the girls won't avoid him and Sun-chan can't help him. Joro and Cosmos go to meet the first year chosen for the festival, and they try to gaslight Asunaro into thinking they are not that close. They meet Kimi the first year, but she is horrified to see Joro, who has a reputation of sniffing around girls and has the nickname the Slipper Man. She drops out of the Flower Festival because she does not want to dance with him. He practices dancing with his friends in preparation for the Flower Festival, but he discovers the next morning that Asunaro's article had already been printed and passed out to the student body. Asunaro apologizes to him and she will try to get the article recalled, since Joro's reputation is broken again. His friends decide to distance themselves for now, and their library meetings and dance practices are cancelled. Asunaro offers to dance with Joro as an apology for the article accidentally printing. Joro receives news that the Flower Festival needs a replacement, and since Asunaro has been sticking by Joro since his reputation has dropped, he asks her to fill in for the dance. Cosmos arrives and asks to speak to Asunaro alone, but Asunaro refuses to come unless Joro joins them. Cosmos rejects Asunaro's participation in the Spring Festival. Cosmos accuses Asunaro of manipulation and trapping Joro. She reveals that Asunero had been spreading rumors against Joro amongst the freshmen to get Kimi to drop out of the dance festival. Asunero had also forged the access log to the newspaper club to hide the fact that she was the one to print the accusatory article. Cosmos reveals the end goal was to isolate Joro from his friends and to dance with him in the flower festival. Cosmos advises her that this is no way to approach true love. Asunero confesses to Joro, but Joro rejects her for causing trouble for him and his friends and says that he will never date her. After Asunero leaves, Cosmos reveals that his friends never abandoned him and they were working in the background to get Pansy into the dance. At the flower festival, Joro dances with Himawari and Cosmos. During their dance, Cosmos reveals that she did not expose Asunero, and only she and Sun-chan know of her plans to isolate Joro, and she kisses Joro. Pansy arrives dressed for the dance and the audience is shocked at her appearance. They dance and she thanks him for helping her, that by getting them all to eat lunch, study for midterms, and dance together she now finally has some friends in high school. Joro's mom lawyer is making breakfast for him after the flower festival when she cheerfully states that he will be going out with his friends today. Joro has no idea what she is talking about until he sees Pansy on his couch. Pansy was conducting her daily stalking of him when she ran into his mother, and later Lawyer invited her to join them for breakfast. Joro is shocked to hear that Lawyer and Pansy know each other well because they kept meeting while Pansy was stalking Joro. Pansy informs him of a trip to the pool Aqualand, and the rest of their friends will be there as well. At the pool, Joro is excited to see his friends in their swimsuits, and when Pansy arrives she declares that this will be a stereotypical pool episode. After playing in the pool, Joro is sent to buy drinks for the group. A girl in line insults him and seems to recognize him, but he has no idea who she is. He tries to look for the bench just in case. The girl, who is named Sasenqua, starts to apologize, saying that her friend was mean to someone and wants to make up for it, and Joro is pretty sure she is talking about herself. Joro says an apology is just fine. Sasenqua later asks what his preferences for girls were and he says he likes neat black hair. She then hands him a drink as thanks for answering her questions. Back with the group, the girls compete to have an activity with Joro as each girl wants to do a different activity. They decide to have a competition to see which activity he likes best. Himawari and Joro go on the water slide, but Joro's trunks accidentally come off and Sun-chan has to intervene to save his dignity. Cosmos takes him on a ride on an inflatable dolphin, but Cosmos suddenly has a fantasy, and Joro is forced to ride the dolphin alone until Sun-chan joins him. Finally, Pansy takes Joro to the spa where they share a relaxing moment, and Pansy is happy to see all their friends having fun. She starts to tease him, but Sun-chan intervenes to lighten the mood. Later, when asked who he had the most fun with, Joro declares that he had the most fun with Sun-chan, and the two run off into the sunset, leaving the girls behind. At school the next day, Joro looks through the photos from the pool and sees that Asunero has published an apology article on the school paper. He is surrounded by his classmates who apologize for their bullying. Sasenqua arrives and Joro is shocked to see she changed her hair to fit his type. Sasenqua also apologizes for treating him badly the past week. 1 year ago, to encourage his best friend Sun-chan after he lost his baseball match, Joro went to the cheerful skewers stand to buy many boxes of skewers for Sun-chan. The seller, Tsubaki, admires his dedication to his friend. In the present, Tsubaki transfers into Joro's class and she kisses the back of Joro's hand to display her devotion. She moved to the school because her family opened a new cheerful sewers shop nearby, which makes Sun-chan ecstatic since he loves their skewers. Tsubaki declares she would do anything for Joro, which makes Sasenqua and Asunero angry. Joro is suspicious of her and believes that he is too strong to be manipulated. Tsubaki says she will give him lunch if he forgets to, and when Joro gives her a test she passes and wins him over with her kindness. Joro is excited and calls her the main heroine in his head. Tsubaki joins his friends for lunch, and when Cosmos tries to give Joro a giant bento, Tsubaki beats her and gives Joro a bento first. Cosmos tries to pass off the giant bento as leftovers, but Joro gives her an excuse to share her food with the whole group. After lunch, when they are alone, Pansy compliments Joro for his excellent deflection for Cosmos, but that he can't keep the status quo forever. She gives him her favorite book to read. After school, Himawari tackles Joro and tells him that her birthday is coming up, and later that night Joro can't find Pansy's favorite book. He realizes he probably dropped the book and goes looking for it. Two girls named Cherry and Tsukumi decide to help him. They find the book, but it is in bad shape, and they tell him where to buy a new copy. The next day, Cosmos has brought another huge lunch, but he ignores it to search for a job to pay for Pansy's new book. When Tsubaki reveals the hourly wage for workers at her family's restaurant, he begs her to hire him. Feeling terrible for ruining her book, Joro presents the ruined book to Pansy and promises to work for another money to buy a replacement. When she wants him to just stay at the library with her and he doesn't need to buy a new book, he insists that he must buy her a new replacement. After a week at Cheerful Skewers, Joro has started to get used to the job. Tsubaki compliments Joro for working hard, but Joro isn't fazed by her praise. The next day, Himawari ambushes Joro on the way to school, and Joro asks why she isn't at her tennis training for her big tournament. And when she makes up an excuse, she can tell she is lying. When she asks about Pansy's book, Joro changes the subject to her birthday. At lunch that day, it's clear to everyone that Pansy does not like Joro working at Cheerful Skewers. Tsubaki tells her that Joro promised to cut down his hours after he has enough money for the book. And later that evening, Sasankwa and her friends visit the restaurant. And Sasankwa declares that it's such a coincidence that they picked Cheerful Skewers and Joro works there. But Joro accidentally falls and spills food on an angry customer, forcing Tsubaki to intervene to resolve the situation. That night, Pansy meets Joro without her disguise, and she states that his inferiority complex when it comes to his friends and their passions is leading him down a dark path. He feels like he has nothing, and when she insists that Joro has her and that she loves him, Joro tells her to get lost, but then immediately regrets it. At lunch the next day, Joro still feels terrible and is glad that Himawari seems to be excited for her tennis tournament. Sun-chan tries to cheer up Joro after lunch, and that night Tsubaki tells Joro to go home early. A despondent Joro gets a drink and meets Hose, and after he explains the situation, Hose encourages him to try everything, and that if there's an important thing he needs to do, he just needs to do it. This gives Joro enough confidence to meet Pansy and apologize for his harsh words. He states that he won't work for selfish reasons anymore, but because he wants to, and Pansy tells him to work hard. When Joro finally has enough money to buy Pansy the book, he gets a message from Himawari but tells her he is too busy. At the bookstore, he finds out that a girl bought the last copy of Pansy's book. And that evening he finds out that Himawari was the one to buy the book, and she was working hard to buy it for him by saving up money and skipping out on tennis lessons. He is horrified to hear this and that she was prioritizing him over her important tennis match. But she insists that she could tell that he was unhappy and that she finds both him and tennis important. Himawari starts to apologize uncontrollably, and Joro gives a heartfelt apology and thanks her for working so hard for him. When the tennis tournament arrives, Himawari sees her friends have come out to cheer for them. And she has a new racket because Joro used his money to buy her the racket as a birthday present. She gives him a kiss on the cheek, and Himawari wins the tournament. They celebrate at Cheerful Skewers, and Pansy asks if Joro read her favorite book. He remembers she left a bookmark asking if he would help her if she was in trouble, and Joro answers he would if he had the time, which makes her happy. In the kitchen, Tsubaki praises Joro for working hard to care for his friends. She tells him he is the glue that holds his friends together and that he needs to stop thinking of himself as a side character, but as a main character, just as important as any of them. One day at school, Joro is grabbed and forced into the science lab. His assailant is Tampopo, the underclassman that refused to dance with him at the flower festival. She extravagantly introduces herself as the super idol manager of the baseball team. Joro feels like she is an idiot, and he suddenly sees a bench in the science room. She tells him that she has something important to say, and he is unfazed until she asks him to make Sun-chan and Pansy a couple. She states that it all started at last year's regional baseball tournament, where even though the team lost, she wanted to tell Sun-chan she was the new manager. But she saw him with a beautiful girl at the exit and assumed that he and the girl had fallen in love. She didn't know who the girl was until the flower festival, when she realized the girl was Pansy. She wants Sun-chan to be happy so that the team can play better, and then she will become popular and will become a super idol with lots of fans. He refuses at first, but she bribes him with naughty photos of herself. Suddenly, a scenario reveals herself, having stalked Joro and crawled through the window. She offers to help Tampopo with her mission, with the ultimate goal of removing Pansy as a rival. At lunch, Joro is uncomfortable with the plan as he watches friends. When a scenario arrives and apologizes to Cosmos about the dance, she grabs Joro and hugs him in front of the other girls. At the end of the day, Sasenko has 2 tickets to the amusement park, and her friends watch as she tries to ask him out on a date, but she ditches her plan and runs away. Tampopo, Asunero, and Joro discuss their plan, and Tampopo asks Joro to put on an act in front of Pansy. She gives him an earpiece and directs him to speak with Pansy. He doesn't make any sense, and she asks about his earpiece. Suddenly, the rest of the girls arrive, and Joro notices a group of boys admiring the girls. Tampopo is angry that boys at the school are admiring other girls and becomes angry when they mispronounce her name. Joro decides to enact his own plan and confess to Pansy instead. But when they meet the next day, Joro tells her he has no intention of confessing, and that he was only pretending to help her. He reveals that she was lying about her goals the entire time, and that she had holes in her story when it came to last year's baseball tournament, where she had actually been cheering for the rival team. Asunero arrives and reveals that she also found out that Tampopo had originally wanted to go to the rival high school but ended up at their school instead. Joro reveals that her true objective had nothing to do with Sun but to get Pansy a boyfriend instead, and Pansy reveals herself. Pansy was a kind upperclassman from Tampopo's middle school days, and Tampopo wanted to help Pansy. Tampopo is horrified to discover that Pansy likes Joro instead of Sun-chan. And when Joro asks why she wanted to keep her identity a secret from Pansy, she runs away. Pansy tells Joro to forgive Tampopo, who was bullied in middle school and forced into a relationship. She thanks Joro for his help, but a jealous Asunero intervenes. Pansy also takes Tampopo's bribe and replaces it with a photo of herself. That night, a teacher reveals to Cosmos that the school library will be closed. The next day, Pansy ambushes Joro and thanks him for helping her with the Tampopo situation. She compliments him but then confuses him when she randomly starts to dance, and Joro discovers that she is wearing an earpiece and taking orders from Tampopo. Joro tricks Tampopo into revealing herself by asking an angel to appear, and Tampopo falls for the trap and then runs away. Suddenly, Cosmos arrives and tells them the school is closing the library. The group discusses the closure of the library at lunch, and Cosmos tells them that the only way to keep the library open is to get many more students to use the library. Everyone announces a way they can each get more students to the library using their clubs and talents. But Joro has no special skills to help. That evening, he runs into Hose and asks him for help, who agrees because Hose's own school closed their library as well. The next day, Cosmos is surprised that Joro has a friend at Toshibu High because they are rivals of their own high school. Hose arrives and Joro is surprised to see Cherry and Tsukumi as well. When they go to the library, Pansy is shocked to see them as they all recognize her. Hose is also shocked to see her and Joro becomes suspicious. Hose gives off main character vibes and Joro determines that Hose is in a love triangle with Cherry and Tsukumi. They all had gone to the same middle school together, but Pansy sticks close to Joro nervously. Joro takes Hose around the library, when Tsukumi suddenly asks if Joro has a crush on Pansy, which he denies. After the group work to remodel the library, Tsukumi and Cherry come up with a situation to separate Joro from Pansy, asking the group to a restaurant without Hose and Pansy. They encourage Pansy to walk home with Hose, but Asunero intervenes to ask Pansy to help her with a newspaper article and rescues her. That night, over drinks, Cherry and Tsukumi openly declare that they love Hose, but they want the group to help get Pansy and Hose together. Joro asks about their own feelings, and they state they have chosen friendship over love and want to help Hose. Also, because Joro can't say that he loves Pansy, they want to save Pansy from heartbreak and she will be happy with Hose. Joro, Himawari, and Cosmos all decline to help, but later Cosmos sends Joro away because she wants to talk to Himawari privately. Joro meets Pansy at the library and asks her to explain the situation. She calls Hose a demon, and he remembers that Pansy wore a disguise to hide from a demon, and Pansy confirms that Hose is the demon she is running from. Pansy reveals that in middle school, Hose and his friends helped her stay away from ill-intentioned people, but she doesn't like to be around Hose because his self-righteousness hurts those around him. Hose fell in love with Pansy, and Hose's main character vibes hurt the girls around him because they all sacrificed their happiness for him. Tampopo was also affected by this, and Pansy was pressured into becoming Hose's girlfriend. Joro promises to help Pansy and protect her from Hose. That evening, Sun-chan meets with Pansy, stating his chance has arrived. Soon the library has become popular. Sun-chan points out that Hose has been a big help, but Joro sees that Pansy is uncomfortable with Hose and his girls sticking around. Joro decides to get help. He goes to Tampopo and reveals the situation, and tells her he knows that she has a crush on Hose. At last year's regional baseball match, she was actually trying to meet Hose but failed. Since Hose is back, Tampopo asks Joro to get closer with Pansy and he agrees. At the library, Joro asks Hose if he will be okay if Pansy starts dating, and Hose uncomfortably says that it is okay. Joro plans to confess to Pansy but is shocked to discover that she had agreed to date Sun-chan already, and that Sun-chan had just confessed to her. Pansy tells Joro that he was an annoyance to her and he should stop coming to the library, and he leaves sadly. Joro meets Sun-chan and asks if this was a ruse to help Pansy from Hose, but Sun-chan reveals that he was just biding his time for the right moment, and now he has Pansy. Sun-chan tells Joro it's now time for Joro to be the best friend character, while Tsubaki listens from outside. Joro is with Asunero, Cosmos, and Himawari at Cheerful Skewers, and though he is outwardly happy, he is inwardly miserable. Tsubaki approaches him after work to tell him that he can't give up, and that Hose and his girls won't stop bothering Pansy even if she had gotten a boyfriend. Joro resolves to help Pansy. That night, Sasankwa runs into him by coincidence while her friends cheer her on. She notices that she has been down and gives him a drink and tells him to act like his true self. Joro thanks her for her valuable advice and she runs away embarrassed. The next day, Joro meets Sun-chan and apologizes that he won't be able to cheer Sun-chan on at the baseball finals because something important has come up. Sun-chan tells Joro that he understands. At the library, the group without Joro and Sun-chan are meeting at the library, when Hose suddenly confesses to Pansy. Himawari and Cosmos try to intervene, but Cherry and Tsukumi defend Hose. Joro suddenly arrives and Pansy at first tells him to stay away, but Joro quotes Pansy's favorite book to Pansy's delight. Joro challenges Hose where the loser has to stay away from Pansy, and Joro manipulates Hose into accepting the challenge. When Hose tries to back out, Joro confidently states that he will never give up Pansy, which forces Hose to accept. For the challenge, Joro reveals copies of Pansy's hairpin and gives one to each of the girls in the room, and that at this year's baseball tournament each girl will give their hairpin to whoever they think should be with Pansy. Since there are 6 girls, a 7th hairpin will be given to whoever's school wins the tournament. Cherry and Tsukumi state that the challenge is unfair because Joro has the advantage over Hose, and Joro is confident that he can win in this underhanded way because most of the girls are his friends. But when Cosmos asks if she, Esanero, and Himawari can cast their vote early, they all vote for Hose. Joro despairs when they all declare themselves as rivals to Pansy and they all confess to him. Sun-chan remembers when he was playing baseball growing up. He had a best friend named Shin who promised to support him. But over time, Sheena and the rest of the baseball team grew jealous of Sun-chan's skills, and behind his back they mocked him while Shiba threw away a keychain which was the symbol of their friendship. This gave Sun-chan an intense fear of rejection, and he adopted a sunny personality to hide his true feelings. Meanwhile, Joro is still shocked with the confessions, and the girls announce that he should give his answer to them after the baseball match. Cherry feels that since the challenge involved the girls, each girl that got a hairpin should be able to add a rule to the challenge. They add additional rules, stating that each girl only has 1 hairpin. Once a hairpin is given, it can't be taken back. The challenge ends with the baseball match and can't be prolonged. Hairpins can only be given if Hose and Joro are both there. No hairpins can be stolen, and that the punishment is final to the loser. A defeated Joro agrees to the rules. The day of the game, Himawari calls Joro asking if he can go with her to the game, and he overhears that Cosmos, Himawari, and Esanero plan to distract him during the game. Joro hides from them using a food stand, but is forced to sell food as repayment. Sun-chan arrives at the game and remembers the day he met Joro. The first time they met, Himawari hit Joro too hard, which breaks Joro's friendly persona, and he insults her under his breath. Sun-chan realizes that Joro wears a mask just like him and they become friends. On the way to the game, Joro gives Sun-chan refreshments and Sun-chan notices Shiba has arrived as well. As the match starts, Joro finds Pansy in the stands and he asks if she can give him a hairpin. She asks him what Joro really thinks of her, but before he can answer they spot Hose and Joro needs to retreat. Joro helps a lost girl to get Cherry's approval, and Cherry tells him that he has already lost. He tells her that Pansy doesn't like Hose at all, so even after the challenge, Hose has no chance anyway. But she refuses to give up her hairpin. When she starts to call Joro over, he creates a distraction and flees. Suddenly, Joro runs into Hose, who tells him that he has no chance. Hose goes up into the stands to get better cell reception to call the girls over. When Joro runs away again, he gets a call from Cosmos, who asks him to meet him, and Joro agrees with no intention to meet her. He discovers that cell reception seems fine. Suddenly, a girl nearby cries because she lost her house key. Sun-chan doesn't hear Joro in the stands and determines that he is still dealing with his challenge. Sun-chan watches as Shiba strikes out and thinks that their team might lose the tournament again. Meanwhile, Sasenqua helps Joro find the missing house key, and when he thanks her, she tells him he owes her a favor later. He meets Tsukumi, who refuses to give him her hairpin, and in addition, Esanero and Himawari ambush him. He tries to tell Tsukumi that he will help her with her feelings for Hose, but she refuses. Hose arrives and asks the girls if he can talk to Joro alone. Meanwhile, Sun-chan remembers a time when he overheard Shiba and a teammate were mocking him for being the coach's favorite, and that Sun-chan only got to where he is by sucking up to the teachers. Sun-chan watches as Joro arrives and defends his best friend, and he realizes that Joro keeps his true self hidden to protect his friends and not to protect his own feelings. When the two are alone, Hose states that he wants to make a change to the challenge. Hose wants to make the punishment harsher, where the loser can't talk to any of Pansy's friends either. To a shocked Joro, Hose reveals his true self, that he is fully aware that he is the protagonist of a romantic comedy, and he is fully aware of the feelings of the girls around him, and that he always manipulates the situation to his advantage. He tells Joro to go back to being a side character as the girls arrive. As the end of the baseball game draws near, Sun-chan remembers when the girl he had a crush on asked to sit with him on a park bench, where she confessed that she was in love with Joro. At the game, Sun-chan criticizes Shiba's play in his head until he realizes that Shiba was playing for teamwork and does a bunt play to score the team a point. Tampopo gives Sun-chan her hat to wear for the final inning, and Sun-chan goes to compliment Shiba over his play. Suddenly, Shiba reveals the keychain from their elementary school days, and Shiba apologizes to Sun-chan for his jealousy all these years. Sun-chan also apologizes as well, realizing that he had the same feelings of jealousy for Joro as well. They reconcile and are determined to win the match. Meanwhile, after the girls arrive, Joro tells Pansy the rules have changed but does not tell her how. Before Tsukumi and Cherry can give their hairpin, Cosmos and Himawari tell them not to use Pansy as an excuse to give up on their own feelings, and that Cosmos and Himawari were once in the same position. That once they each agreed to help Joro to become closer with Pansy against their own feelings because they didn't want Joro to hate them. Cherry reveals that they are correct, and she and Tsukumi declare that everything is Pansy's fault. Himawari, Cosmos, and Isunero defend Pansy and tell them they should be honest with their feelings, and that even after they confess, they all are still great friends with Joro. Cherry and Tsukumi both confess to Hose, and he gently lets them down. Cherry gives Joro her hairpin and Tsukumi gives Hose hers. Hose starts to declare victory, but Joro reveals his true strategy as Tsubaki arrives with a hairpin and gives it to Joro, as the rules did not state that other girls were not allowed to have hairpins. All the girls he helped during the match give Joro a hairpin, as Sasenko also arrives to give one as well. Hose reveals that earlier that day when he let Joro go, he was trying to figure out Joro's strategy and correctly determine Joro's own strategy, and that Hose also spent the day going to girls at the match to collect hairpins himself. His total becomes far more than Joro, and Joro loses. Hose also reveals the rules change with the punishment, revealing that the loser can't speak with any of Pansy's friends. Cosmos, Himawari, and Isunero try to challenge the rules but can't. Hose declares victory when Joro states that the challenge isn't over. Sun-chan arrives with Tampopo, followed by a crowd of girls with hairpins. Joro reveals that when he gave Sun-chan refreshments earlier that day, he secretly enlisted his best friend's help. After they count the votes, they find that the results are tied, and Hose asks what were the results of the baseball game. Sun-chan remembers that at the end of the baseball match, Sun-chan realizes that the batter is too strong, and Sun-chan is depressed that none of his friends are cheering for him. When he takes off Tampopo's hat, he sees Joro had left an encouraging message for him relating to last year's match. Invigorated, Sun-chan pitches and leads the team to victory, and they celebrate the victory with him. Sun-chan and Joro do a victory sign together, and Sun-chan kindly breaks up with Pansy and leaves the group, desperate to make the challenge a tie. Hose begs Pansy to give her the hairpin. Joro tells Pansy she can do whatever she wishes, and she states that she is in love with Joro and gives him her hairpin in front of Hose. Hose complains that he can't lose to a side character, and that Joro is a nobody, and Pansy tells him to stay away from her and her friends. After Hose is dragged away, Pansy announces that Joro has to give his answer to the girls. Sasenko almost confesses but can't at the last minute. As response to the confessions, Joro tells all the girls he loves them, and he declares that he can separate them into different days of the week as his own personal harem. Offended and angry, all the girls ditch him. That night, he eats at Tsubaki's card, and she correctly determines that Joro didn't want to ruin the friendships in the group by choosing a girl, and decided to be the villain so that all the girls would stay friends. He later meets Sun-chan with a box of skewers, his best friend's favorite food. Sun-chan uses his win from the challenge at the pool to ask Joro to eat the skewers with him, and they go to a nearby park and eat on the park bench. An excited Sun-chan announces that since the team won the match, they will be going to the national tournament, and Joro cheers him on while the girls secretly watch the friends celebrate together. Sun-chan really wanted a cute girl to accept him, but he is glad that he has a best friend in Joro who loves him. That night, when Joro is returning home, Pansy approaches to thank him for fulfilling his promise to her. As they walk together, he states that the moon is pretty that night, a poetic Japanese way for saying he loves her. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.